Sorry, I just woke up. Sorry, just got done watching the third episode of The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, and I had to get some coffee to wake myself up. Just a little bit. I don't know, maybe I'm just tired. But yeah. The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten, with the base concept of let a girl borrow your umbrella and she will give you her undying devotion for the rest of her life. Trope embodied into, I don't know, slice of life romance, I guess, is somewhere in there. But yes, I just got done with the third episode of the series, and I guess it's finally time for me to sit down here and give my thoughts on the series so far. I've honestly watched the first episode, the second episode, and I really didn't have anything to say about the show. It's just kind of one of those shows that's just, it's there, and I don't really know what to talk about, but let's dive into it and see if I can come up with something. The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten opens up with a guy named Amane Fujimiya. He is living alone in an apartment and goes to school. Some point while he's going home from school, he ends up spotting a girl named Mahiru Shina, and she is the school angel. And so happens, she lives right next door to him in his apartment complex. And it's raining, and she is just sitting in the middle of this park, soaked. He asks what she's doing there. She doesn't really want to talk. He doesn't want to pry, so he just hands over his umbrella and runs home. Well, the following day, Sheena realizes that Fujimiya is sick. He's not at school, he's got a cold, and so she decides to go to his place and help him recover from his cold, obviously assuming he's got a cold because he ran in the rain because he gave me his umbrella. And what kind of comes from this is this kind of forming relationship between the two of these characters, as she was taking care of him to get him better. At the same time, he doesn't really expect too much from her, and since she's the angel of the school, she always assumes all the boys are just trying to do anything they can to get her attention. And yes, she spoils him rotten, like the title would lead you to believe. As she claims that she makes too much food for her own self to consume, she figures, well, I'll just give it to you. And since you don't take it the wrong way, it's a win-win, basically. And this extends to the point where she realized that his apartment is an absolute mess, so she pushes herself in there to clean up the mess. So this begins a little routine where she brings him food, he eats the food, he returns the containers, she cleans up his room, cooks other stuff for him, they buy groceries together, and they're pretty much a couple without being a couple. At the same time, he discovers a birthday and tries to ask his friend's girlfriend for help on deciding a gift to give to Sheena. You get a little bit of sense that Sheena doesn't have the greatest relationship with her parents, even though she's a rich girl and she's perfect and she can cook great things and she's super smart. She has parental issues. And it doesn't seem like Fujimiya has the greatest relationship with his parents either, as his mother does visit at some point, and she's super overly doty and very bubbly, but it seems to indicate that her husband is not his father, based on the fact that they name him by his name. So my thoughts on The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. First of all, I like the character designs. I really did like Higehiro for the character designs, and it's kind of the similar case with this one, especially Sheena. Looks really adorable. Really do like her design. And that kind of plays into the whole idea of the perfect waifu character that spoils the hell out of the main character. And yes, certain audiences would love to watch this series just on the base on the idea of wanting to be self-insert to the perfect waifu that does everything for you. And I think that's kind of where I'm already getting to my issue with the series so far. It's a little bit too perfect and bland. Put aside the fact that we have the overly convenient aspect of him living next door to the school idol, the fact that the school idol is this girl that doesn't like the attention that she's getting. He doesn't do the same thing that all the other boys do, so that kind of catches her attention to him. And yes, she's perfect at everything. She cooks, she cleans, she's got the best grades ever. She's seemingly rich. She's got everything going for her. And then you'll obviously have that undertone of, well, does she have everything? Because it seems like she didn't have a really good childhood. Whoop-de-doo. Let's feel sorry for the character. It's always great to have that character that's super perfect, but no, this one thing, oh no, that means their life has been terrible. I don't know, maybe I'm just being a little bit too harsh. Fujimiya, on the other hand, I think is the weakness of this series so far. He's just kind of dull. I don't know if they're trying to go for the idea of a self-insert character, a character that you can kind of sneak yourself in there without having to worry about him doing too many things that would be out of the norm for yourself. But he's just kind of an okay dude. He's not taking advantage of her, and he's an absolute slob, so maybe some people can relate to him as well, living on your own and just trashing up your house. I've never been that way. I always like to try to keep my stuff like super clean. I was bad at some point, but at some point I realized as long as you keep up with it once a week, it makes it to where you don't have to worry about later having a cute girl come in and clean everything for you, which I would find extremely embarrassing. Sheena is a girl, same age as you, she's not your mom. I think most of the conversation around the series so far that I agree with is that the dialogue itself seems pretty solid so far. And the idea that this is not really relying on too many of your typical anime tropes. The discussions that Fujimiya and Sheena have don't feel like your typical anime romance where it's got to talk about miscommunications, it's got to be all about misunderstandings, characters, tropes that usually bog it down and make it feel unrealistic. Which for the most part, like I said earlier, I kind of agree. These characters feel a little bit more natural in certain regards with their conversations, and again, it doesn't feel too anime. Sheena bringing him food and assuming that he's not taking it wrong, thus helping it out, at the same time getting her own self-satisfaction out of it. Getting a little more detail on the idea of what exactly is technically missing in Sheena's life that most people take for granted, like parental connections. But at the same time, it feels off. I had a discussion with somebody in Discord a couple days ago, and it was kind of refreshing that they got the same feeling from this series. While it doesn't feel like your typical anime discussion, it also doesn't feel fully natural. It feels off. Take for instance the first encounter that we have with Sheena going to Fujimiya's place and taking care of him because he has a cold. He has the dreaded Japanese debilitating cold. And as she's nursing him back to health from this difficult cold, it seems to imply that Sheena believes that Fujimiya wants something else from her. Like she's trying to repay to him for helping her with the umbrella to nurse him back to health, and she's afraid that because she's at fault for him getting sick, that he wants something else. Doesn't really say what that something else is, but it's implied what that something else is. He wants a favor from her, wants more from her. And I guess knowing that she's thinking this, he says, "Oh, you think that typically a boy would want something else." And she stands there silently. It's like, acknowledge it. And it's like, what is this conversation? Like, you have this total strangers in your house. She's the school idol, whatever. But you have this total stranger in your house, and you're going to bring this up, even though you know she's probably uncomfortable being in this boy's house, a stranger's boy's house. What is this conversation? Again, it's those kind of things that feel kind of off. And this happens several times throughout these first 3 episodes. It's these conversations that's like, yeah, you're breaking out of the norms, but you feel really weird. It's one of those aspects of like, I wonder if this writer has ever had experience with the opposite sex, because this isn't a conversation you would normally have. It's breaking from the tropes, which are typically not normal, and doing different things that are completely unnormal. But again, I think that's what most people are gravitated to, this sense of honesty that these characters have. They don't beat around the bush when it comes to conversing about what's going on around them. Like, why are you making me food? People get the wrong impression. Well, I like to cook for people, and you don't take it wrong. Her willingness to push herself into his life and fix the wrongs that he has in it. She does it almost so casually that it's likable. We don't have to have a long discussion about why this is happening, just she does it because she wants to. And I give the series credit for that. And I think there's a possibility that could make this series a really good romance because, again, they're breaking past the typical norms of misunderstandings that bog these shows down. But I think what most people don't acknowledge is that it's not an honest show. These characters aren't honest with each other. They just actually talk, but don't tell the truth. Again, we've had 3 episodes where several sequences we had, Sheena brings up her parents in some way, but she doesn't talk about her parents, which in effect is the carrot on the stick for the viewer that, oh, I can't wait to find out what makes Sheena vulnerable. What hurts her? What's bogging her down? What's stressing her? Is her doing this for Fujimiya her way of getting away from that feeling? Again, it's got the setup to do something really good. It's just, will it nail it? That's the question mark. Or is this series just going to turn into what the first 3 episodes has pretty much been so far? Hot girl dotes on guy because he gave her an umbrella. I will be curious because, yes, I've been joking about it a lot. If it will turn into one of those things where eventually we find out that Sheena likes Fujimiya for a different reason. It wasn't just about the umbrella. Do the typical trope backstory of, I don't know, he saved her from a speeding car or something. I do have to say, I do like Itsuka and Chitose. I think the chemistry with them two and Fujimiya is really solid. And I think it's kind of refreshing every now and then because typically the chemistry around Fujimiya and Shina just feels so kind of stale. Like I joked about at the very beginning of the video, I literally almost fell asleep watching the second episode. When it's just Shina and Fujimiya, yes, every now and then they'll get in some really quirky back and forth, but for the most part, it's very blah. And so when we do have scenes with Itsuka and Chitose around Fujimiya, it's always very refreshing. And I think based on the ending of this third episode, we could possibly have them around more often just to give us that chemistry that, honestly, I don't think the main two cast has. So where do I stand in the end? Very mixed, obviously, as you can tell from my video so far. I think it's refreshing. It's a pretty solid kind of laid-back romance show. It doesn't rely on too many tropes, but at the same time, having some very questionable writing. I think it definitely nails the aspect of the perfect waifu character that dotes on the main character, which some people will probably really enjoy. It's got a very sweet feel to it. But again, I think it has a lot of struggles, and again, for me personally, it's extremely boring at times. But anyhow, if any of that sounds interesting, definitely check it out. I hope you guys enjoyed my first impressions of The Angel Next Door Spoils Me Rotten. If you like this video, make sure to go down below and hit that like button, because I'm sure that all of the Shina simps are going to be hitting the downvote like crazy. Additionally, let me know in the comments down below what you think of the series so far. Are you enjoying it? Are you not enjoying it? Let me know. I love hearing from you guys. Additionally, if you're new to the channel, make sure that subscribe button so you get all my content. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top lists. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, tips link, super thanks, and a membership button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that supports the channel, and y'all take care.